Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with his special guest. I tease this person. He's big time, but he still comes back and talks to me, so I appreciate it. Thanks, Spencer, for coming back.
Let's do it. Episode 2.
There you go. So what I want to talk about here, we just really pushed, we gave advice, we suggested more and more people look at house hacking as a way to get started. But let's also have a real honest discussion about good and bad. And I usually start these with the bad. Let's talk about the lessons learned and kind of the negative side, and then we'll finish on the positive side. What do you got?
I'll feed everyone's presuppositions about house hacking, which is bad roommates. And I've certainly had a few. I'm very fortunate now that I can buy in a nicer area, which does attract a little bit more of a quality tenant. Mm-hmm. I've seen a major reduction in issues. However, when you're first starting, sometimes you can't afford a nicer house and you need to start in an area that you can afford, which sometimes brings about not great tenants. I ran into an issue where I had no money. And I hope those who are trying this house hacking, when you do have money or at least have the ability to fix problems, maybe not be desperate for tenants, you'll have a lot better experience. Unfortunately, I was going through a tough time with flips gone wrong, and I ended up having to fix up that house, the house hack, my first house hack, $31,000 sewage problem. I was thinking $30,000 of renovation that I wanted to make it nicer and more appealing, turned into $140,000. So I lost my money twice.
Oh.
Yeah, so the flips were the first part. Part 2 was I lost all my money on the house I was living in. So at the time, then the health events strikes, and I was desperate for a tenant. I couldn't really find anyone because the house was under renovation. So I found someone that was a riskier tenant, let's say. And anyway, so I've dealt with all the headaches. I still am push this strategy because I think it's still worth it. However, yes, there will be times when you might run into issues. And like anything, you figure out, here's a problem. Let me create a solution to not let it happen again.
Right. Yeah. The whole idea. And again, I'm opening an office, and one of the things that's going right on the front of the 7 rules of ORET. And I think number 5 is bad things will happen. Learn and move on.
You've probably had bad tenants. I mean, if you if you get to 100, 200, 300 units, it just grows with you. You're going to have 1%, 5%, something bad tenants. Just happens. Yeah.
So let's just have another discussion. So over the years, I've had thousands of tenants, right? We're talking 21 years now. I've had 5 horror stories, like the things you hear about. 5 out of thousands of tenants. And here's the deal. And I was actually going to ask you this question. One of the things that I've learned is what really helps me eliminate this, and this actually helped me during this crisis we went through, right? Because I had a big fear of February of 20, like, holy shit, 200 units? What happens if half don't pay, right? I have a bunch of cash flow. I retired. I'm good, but half? I don't know, right? How long can I go? Yeah, it's like half's a problem, folks. And lo and behold, we did a whole full audit. We looked at the risky tenants. We found 20. Thankfully, only 2 or 3 had problems. But my rent collection the whole time was 1% of average because of this thing, because we had a tight tenant selection, right? We have tenant criteria that if you miss one of those things, it's an automatic no. And everybody is treated the same. There's no specials. There's no back thing. So what I wanted to ask you, now that you've been doing this for a couple of years and have 17 tenants, how tight is your criteria for getting a yes answer for somebody living in your house?
Very little. And I'm actually going to provide a different insight that most landlords will not agree with. However, I'm going to say it. Sure. I don't do background checks. I don't do credit checks. I don't think any of that matters. I think with the house hack model, it actually differs. You don't know. And here's the risk. I'll be fully transparent about the risk with this model. And that is obviously bad roommates. So then the question becomes, how do you find great roommates? I don't think there's any correlation between credit checks and background checks, because what matters most is someone moving into the house and getting along with strangers. Sure. I don't know of a single way to evaluate that unless they're coming from a previous similar situation.
That's a good point.
So yes, I do look for references. Like I do now care about, what was your current living situation? Because I had one that got kicked out and I should have dug a little deeper as to why. Became a bad tenant, as you can imagine. So yes, referrals from a previous living situation. And I do look for employment. That's a big one. I feel, look, if they're working at Walmart or some big brand, or they've got like a nice company that they work for, they've already done background checks. If they've maintained employment for 6 months, I'm not going to find anything that they didn't find. And then I just evaluate you when you show up. I say, these are the clear rules. So actually, I'll kind of go into my system. So I have a house rules document that I share, and I make it very clear what my expectations of the people that move in. Thankfully, the biggest leverage on my side, and the reason why I could be a little more lenient, is the rental demand market right now is insane in Vegas. I'm telling you, like, this is why this is a gold rush. It is insane. I have, for the next house, I already have 3 of the rooms basically full, and I haven't even done, I haven't even put in the furniture and taken pictures and listed it. I could probably have 5 if I wait another week or 2. Anyway, the rental demand is insane. And so a lot of people are looking at my house. I provide a nice house. I furnish it. I include all utilities. It's incredibly easy to move right in. I don't do 2 months of rent. I typically don't do deposit. I'm not a fan of all that stuff. But anyway, I just have them. Here's your price to move in. It's first month rent. And I make it really easy on people. I charge a little below market, and I never raise rents. I will never raise rents on anyone. And so with that said, I have a lot of leverage because I provide a lot of value in the sense that they look at the market and say, okay, I just spent weeks trying to find a place. It was tough to get approved. Maybe I don't have enough cash. Because look, I am living with people that are moving into a place with 5 or 6 other people. Right. I can't expect the perfect tenant on paper. And so anyway, so they're looking at the market and seeing their other options. And then they see my option to live. This is a $500,000 house that I'm in. This is a very nice house. Even people who live in nicer houses would probably still stop by and go, wow, you did a great job, Spencer. So I'm offering a great living situation in a nice, stable, secure neighborhood with no riffraff. And so for $750 a month, or for a master, maybe $1,000 a month, you can move in, never have rent raised, live in a safe environment. So I feel like that what I offer brings in a certain type of person, and then I make the rules clear. And so when they move in, you kind of train them in a way.
That's pretty cool. So I guess, so first and foremost, you're absolutely right. I get, the whole traditional month to month year lease, it's a different criteria, right? So that makes perfect sense to me. I got to imagine, so what percentage get a yes answer? Because again, you advertise a room in this house in a great part of town. I got to imagine you get dozens of requests a day. What's the ratio? Is it like 1 out of 10 get yes answers, or any idea?
It gets overwhelming for sure. I post, and then I have certain qualification questions that I ask that I guess at this point, maybe I'm a little tuned in. I look at pictures too. If they have a kid, I need to ask if they have a kid, or if they're looking for a room for multiple people. That's obviously not a good fit because I have so many people here. So there's usually like a few disqualifiers I hit before I even show them the house. Typically when I show them the house, it's 100% approval. Like when they come see it, they want it. I do a simple check. Let me get referrals. Let me talk to someone you work for to confirm employment. Cool. And that's it.
Okay. Very, very cool.
Look, here's the risk. Like, it is a coin flip in some regards. There's no like green light to this tenant and red light. That green light, okay, let me approve them. So, if they show up and they seem fine and they look like they take care of themselves, they've had steady employment, it's good with me.
I guess one of the questions I've always wanted to ask somebody who's done this, and now is 17, probably had 50 some over the years. What kind of person looks to rent a room in a nice house? What's the situation? Are they moving to town, or what's going on?
I'll give you my current house. 1 divorce.
Okay.
2 just moved here to Vegas and needed something. My job moved me here. I'm here. 1 was self-employed and was moving back to town. And then the other was currently employed, was living in a situation like living with a friend, but I think the friend got a girlfriend and was just kind of ready to live alone or something. So then so not like urgent, but this person was looking for a new house. So I think that's generally who I find.
Do you see, given that model, it sounds like at least a couple of those might be there for a year or less. It sounds like turnover might be high.
Surprisingly, no. So I do month to month to protect me. Since the health event, I didn't want to deal with evictions. Yeah. So here in Vegas, you can do no
fault evictions.
No fault eviction. Yeah, you just do terminate the lease 30 days or whatever. And so I make that clear too, that I do month to month from the start. If it doesn't work out, like, I can terminate the lease at any point. Let's see, what was the question again?
Basically, turnover.
Oh, turnover. Yeah. I find that a lot of people stay a long time because I never raise rent. And because if they were to leave this house, they're going to go to a place that's it's going to be really challenging to find another place.
Got it.
Here in Vegas, you don't have many people that are single that have multiple friends that are all looking for this at the same time for the same type of place in the same rent bracket.
Got it.
Right. In order to live with each other. The rent now for living alone is enough that they'll justify living with others.
It's like, it's good enough. I'm good.
Yeah. They might have to. And the people I get, a lot of times there are some financial struggles that I have to work with them a little bit. And the difference between, say, $750 a month in my house and maybe living alone at $1,200, that $450, $500 a month is backbreaking to a lot of people. So they'll still live for $750 a month while they get their financial situation handled.
Very cool. So the other thing you said that I want to poke at a little bit is you said you never raise rents.
Correct.
So it sounds like you never raise rents as the people that move in. Cool. But I'm curious, if someone left and a new person came in, would you at least reset rent then?
I do. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So my strategy with this, Number one, I make a lot of money from this, and I never want to feel like I'm taking advantage of people and charging rent and being that type of landlord, which I'm not judging.
Not
Here's
you.
what I want. I want super low headache.
Mhm.
So how do I get super low headache? I want people to enjoy living in my houses. And one of the ways to make them happy, such that they follow the rules, don't give me any headaches, is make sure they enjoy living there. And one way to do that is to never raise rent. I'm not a big fan of the raising like $20 a month, like after a year. I'm not a big fan of that model, especially for people that are tight on finances, which a lot of my tenants are.
Okay. I like it.
So for me, I feel like I'm going to make my money long-term. I make plenty of it. I make plenty of money on YouTube. I just want houses that bring in stable cash flow. That's easy. So how do you make it easy? If a tenant moves in and they follow the rules, I want to keep them as best as possible.
Very cool. Any chance you could share with me that house rule document? I'd love to check that out.
Yes, I can. And you'll find it funny because it's 2 pages, a front and a back. And most of them came about from something happening.
Bad things happen. You learn and move on. I've said that's like rule number 5.
Don't flush anything down the toilet that's not human waste. Don't put oil down the drain, you idiots.
Oh yeah, stuff happens. Well, man, so that's kind of bad. Let's talk about the good now. So that was all bad. Let's talk about good stuff.
I had one big good thing, and that is this can become systematized, which I'm a big fan of.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm trying to focus on with this next one is I want to create a very clear, streamlined process, A to Z, when I buy the next property. What is first thing? Little things like make sure the previous owners change their mail. Like, I don't want to deal with your mail coming to my house.
Yeah.
Make sure you change the utilities. These are simple. After you buy enough, you get in the habit, but your first time you're nervous and you don't know how to do all this stuff. So, get the right furniture in, hire the designer, make sure all the paints touch up, make sure everything works. Like, they're very clear process to buying these so that I can buy more in the future, and the energy required to get it up and running will be a lot less. And that's something I have to deal with now with YouTube. I'm a one-man show. I do everything myself. And so I have this thing going with YouTube in that I want the real estate side to be as low energy as possible.
Very, very
systematizing it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. The other thing I'll put out there, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, is again, I think house hacking, when you do it, it's a lot easier than people expect. I think people look at it like, oh my God. But once you're in it, it's really not that bad.
It's like most things. You'll take a few punches. You realize that it's not going to end you. You're not going to die.
You get up. Yeah.
You're okay. You'll bounce back. And I found that if you'll get a general sense of who people are when they show up. I've had people show up and I just said, oh, other people are looking, and I've had to reject them. They just didn't strike me, maybe possible drug use. They just didn't strike me as someone that I'd want to live amongst other people. But you get a little finely tuned on what you're looking for. And then at some point, most of the people, they all go to their rooms, spend all day in the rooms. They actually don't really interact with each other. And then they become friends, and they might go out to dinner with each other. And then it's like, oh, wow, you actually created like a little community. As long as you treat people with respect, you're nice to them, you give them a good place to live. I found that, they all get along.
I guess one question I just popped in my head that I didn't know about. Do you keep it all the same sex, like all men, all women, or?
I'm open to both. Okay. I have found, I do like to have women have their own bathroom if possible. Sometimes it's not as easy because when you have 5 or 6 bedrooms to fill, I go first come, first serve. Like if I find a good tenant and they want, go for it. And then if the last one is a woman and she's got to share the bathroom, not ideal, but
but you communicate.
It's not that much of a problem.
Okay.
I haven't found there's going to be a few things that pop up. Like some women like to, or tend to be a little more cleanly, and so-and-so shaved and didn't clean up, like little things. This stuff happens with house hacking, but
very cool.
I've seen enough of kind of different variations that sharing bathroom isn't as big of a deal as many people believe.
Very cool. So again, the other good thing about house hacking is you don't have to do it forever, right? You've been doing this since 2019. If you wanted now, even without YouTube, now you're at a point where, your finances to a point where maybe the next one you could live alone.
Correct.
You don't have to, but certainly in the span of 8 to 10 years, right? You're only 3 or 4 years in, you could put the systems in place where ultimately you could have your own place. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, minor correction. I've actually been doing it since September of 2016.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I bought a condo. It was just a single condo house hack. So not quite what I do now. I go way more extreme. So technically I've done the roommate thing for a while. Okay. Can I do this forever? I think the rebuttal to that would be to create a property management for this model, because I've actually met a few people in Las Vegas who are maybe see the YouTube video, or they saw one of my things about house hacking. They want to do it, and maybe they either don't want to do it themselves, meaning they want to do rent by room, but don't want to do the owner occupied rent by room. And so they come to me asking what are solutions. Well, if I have a property management company, then all of a sudden, maybe I can manage that model and possibly manage my own model. So I buy a 5-bed house and have my company property manager manage it. That is something I've been strongly considering.
Well, I'll just tell you right now, you put it out there 30 seconds ago. That could be an income stream for you on par with what you're doing on YouTube. It is
I think
model.
So too.
There are a lot of people in my situation, 50 years old, not doing it, but I have a lot of capital that's like, I'd love to be in Vegas, but I can't make the yearly lease, monthly work. But hey, I can go buy $500,000 house right above FHA limits like you. Love to do it. And then the beauty for a property manager like you is you can charge almost anything you want. It doesn't have to be the 10%. You probably should charge more because there's more people, more management. There's a huge business. And again, you don't have to do anything. You just be the man at the top, people below.
The reason why I'm strongly considering this is I have a friend that actually goes to a more extreme than I do. He had an 8-bed house, a 5-bed that he converted to 8-bed.
Oh my God.
It was big, like 4,000 square feet, big enough, nice part of town, and a casita on the property. So he had 8 plus a casita. He was making $7,600 per month on a $475 purchase. Wild, isn't it?
A little bit of cash flow there.
Yeah, that one I would not recommend going the extreme. But to give you an idea, there's a house on the market right down the street, 625, way overpriced. Let's say you get it at 575. I could convert into a 6-bed and get 4,600 a month in rent. You'll like this. Property taxes are only about 3,300 for this area.
Wow.
Insurance maybe 1,500 a year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The number, and you get appreciation and principal pay down.
I'm going to put it right here on record on this channel for the first time. You will have a property management company in 90 days or less, because a lot of people are going to see this and reach out to you. How do you want them to reach out? I mean, because again, my channel is pretty big. They got a lot of real estate, people that have big money. How do you want to reach out? Because I bet some people wanted to do this now. First,
I don't have a skill to starting a company. That's not a skill I have. And hiring, I've never had to hire. So I'm even open to like possibly business partner, something. It's the models there. I run a huge meetup. So the demand is there where I could certainly find clients right away. Spencer0Cornelia@gmail.com is my email, or Instagram SpencerCornelia1 is my IG. Yeah, I'm open to anything. I'm definitely down. I'm so booked with YouTube that I don't have time to do this stuff, but I am 100% open to it. I've got 2 buddies that rent by the room, and between us now, we're probably closing in on 50 tenants, or 50 rooms, 50 tenants. So it's there. We've been considering it.
No, there is something there. And yeah, it's going to happen this year. Very cool. Well, Spencer, thank you very much for this. We will have episode number 3 shortly. Thanks, bud.
Thank you.